Hello, everybody. This is The Social Truth. We think our producer Rob is on his honeymoon in the Dominican Republic, so we had to kind of fiddle around and make sure we could actually produce the show here. So we are live, finally. We're good to go. We're getting the thumbs up from our intern. Thank you, Mason. Senior intern. So today, we're going to talk about LinkedIn a little bit. We haven't done that in a few months. My name is Jeremy Anderberg, by the way.
I'm Mike Ball. I haven't been here for a while.
And we are project managers here at One Social Media. We broadcast The Social Truth live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Today it was a little closer to 3:03 p.m., but that's okay. So LinkedIn, just a couple days ago, this week actually, surpassed MySpace as the #2 social network in the country. I was a little bit shocked when I read that headline that it passed MySpace, considering MySpace hasn't been relevant in about 3 or 4 years now.
And they sold for what I have in my piggy bank, pretty much.
Yeah, to Justin Timberlake.
Yep.
He actually bought a part of it, so we'll see what he does with it. They're right around 130 million active users, so it's a pretty huge accomplishment for LinkedIn. I had kind of thought that Twitter would be ahead of them, but that's not really the case either. So
surprising, actually.
Yeah, so big and exciting news for LinkedIn. So we wanted to celebrate the occasion and just talk a little bit about some of the new features that they've kind of rolled out in the last few weeks, few months here since we talked about it. So one, I want to talk about an easy way to add more contacts and add connections. And I just found this myself just probably a couple weeks ago, last week or so. When you go to contacts on the upper tabs and you hit add connections, one of the first things that pops up is a little kind of box that says import email contacts. And I'm always a little bit weary of doing that. I don't really like kind of sending mass spam like those things kind of tend to be, but I thought I'd try it out. So I entered my email address and then the password for my email so that they could read those contacts. And it automatically sent invites to all of my Gmail contacts, which I think is pretty cool. They're all, I kind of went through them to make sure they were all people that I actually wanted to connect with, and they were. And so I kind of, in the last week or so, doubled my LinkedIn connections just by going through and adding email contacts. And there's, instantly doubled my my network, which is a pretty cool feature. Something that you might want to take advantage of yourself.
I think there's a few different ways you can do that as well. I didn't really want everybody in my entire email list to be on there, so under the add more connections, there's a way where you can click on the faces and choose which connections you want as well. I didn't want to add Jeremy, so I picked everybody else.
Yeah, very cool feature. So make sure, it's easy to kind of sit back and just be a consumer of these different social networks, but it's definitely good to kind of go out and be proactive in adding connections instead of just being the one to always hit accept. It's okay to go out and actually be the one that hits the invite button. So I think keep that in mind and you'll always keep your network growing. And kind of a rule of thumb that we use is to try to be adding anywhere between 5 and 15 connections on any given week and see what happens.
When you do that, try to make it a little bit more personal. It gives you an option to add a message whenever you add a connection and just tell them why you're connecting with them, whether it's they're another professional in the same industry or if it's just somebody who looks like they'd be fun to connect with. Just let them know why you're doing it. That way they don't mark you as a spammer.
Yep. Awesome points. All right. So the next thing to kind of talk about is that LinkedIn has kind of ramped up their sidebar feature. So on the home tab, right when you log in, there's kind of a whole variety of new features to talk about that I think Mike was going to talk about just a little bit.
Yeah, they're actually more fun for me because they're pictures instead of just text, and I don't usually pay attention to a lot of text. So one thing that it tells you is people that you might know or want to connect with, and it's done that somewhat before, but now it's a little bit more obvious.
Yep.
Jeremy's face keeps popping up. Mason's face popped up once or twice. People that you generally know, and sometimes it goes by interest, maybe other people that you followed, things that are on your profile, and sometimes it goes by your network. So it's always good to keep an eye on that. The next thing is the suggested groups that you might like. My right side is social media, and I think Batman.
Yeah.
Or my top 3 choices right there for groups that I would want to be in. Thinking other than that.
Yeah, they've also added like a jobs you might be interested in feature, which is in beta testing. Seems kind of cool. Obviously, I'm not searching in that box, but
we're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, but could be handy, especially, you know, unemployment numbers are a little bit higher than unexpected the first half of the year. So keep that in mind when you're on LinkedIn. It can kind of read what your profile says, and I think you can set it geographically. I haven't quite looked at that feature yet, as it's still in beta testing, so there's probably some bugs. But play around with that a little bit and hopefully find some jobs that way.
LinkedIn's a great job search tool. That's how we got hired.
Yep.
Joe, our boss, Joe, CEO of the company, won't hire anybody who's not on LinkedIn. And a lot of companies are taking that as a more professional approach to job finding. So keep that in mind when you go into your profile as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of leads into the bigger chunk of what we're going to talk about today, was how LinkedIn has kind of totally revamped company pages. So to see a good example of what and kind of awesome tricked out company pages, of course you can visit One Social Media's page, and that would be linkedin.com/company/one-social-media. And you can kind of see the different features, and now it kind of functions as a little website right within LinkedIn. So there's different tabs. If you see for us, there's an overview and a services tab. If you add jobs, it'll add a jobs tab. And really just adds a lot of functionality and kind of pizzazz to what you can do for your company on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's not just a paragraph about your company anymore. Under your specialties or services, you can add several different banners that you can rotate in and out so you have a visual presence. And you can add, I don't know, just a little bit more fun. You can add a video on the right bar under there. It's really customizable, and we would recommend that you take the time to play around with that for your company so it's your presence. I mean, whether you're using LinkedIn to hire new recruits or to make business connections or even try to make sales directly from LinkedIn, the better your presence, the better off you're going to be. And especially like a visual presence is something that stands out on LinkedIn right now.
Yeah, definitely. You know, what's cool is that LinkedIn is kind of finally, it looks like at least, starting to understand that, you know, to really stick out, they're going to have to add some of the more customizable features, especially visually. You know, before LinkedIn, to me, had always looked just kind of boring and businessy, for lack of a better word. And that was honestly one of the reasons why I personally was slow to kind of jump in. You know, you didn't really see logos, you didn't see these customizable banners that they're starting to allow. And so doing this, I think, really captures the attention of a younger demographic like Mike and I's, who is kind of more reliant on visual stimulation and visual learning. And so I think it's a huge move forward for LinkedIn, and will actually just serve to increase their base of people that they're reaching.
Yeah, and same thing too for your personal profiles. Just like you can customize the company profiles, the best way to customize your personal profile is by going through and using those apps.
Yep.
I added our social media man infographic to my profile, and I have one of our customer testimonials.
Yep.
I'm sure Jeremy has recommended reading and a bunch of other things too.
I do, yep.
You can be a little bit more flashy on LinkedIn now while still having your professional presence, which kind of allows for your personal brand to stick out as well.
Yeah, what's cool is too, you can add videos, which is awesome. So on our company page, for instance, we added a video of a client testimonial, and that's something that you know never really used to be able to see on LinkedIn. So that's a cool feature. They also kind of added this new spot where happy customers can actually give recommendations for the company versus just you as a person, which is another cool feature. And so they're really, you know, LinkedIn, with all these new people, are really kind of starting to take it to the next level and make it even more functional than it used to be. So if you're not on LinkedIn as an individual, you're missing out. But also now, if you're not on there as a company, you're missing out. It's one of the things that we've really started to implement for our own clients, is these company pages that we never used to. And so you really want to make sure you know, to just kind of go in, play around, see what you can do. There's a whole host of features now. You can even, you know, it's not something that we've played around with a lot, but you can even set the information that people see to be different based on demographics. So we can say people in Iowa might see something different than people in, you know, a state like Minnesota, or, you know, people in Europe would see something different than people here in America, which is another very, very cool feature. Again, not something that we've played around with a ton, but I'm sure we will as we kind of learn more about what these new features and things like that are.
Yeah. It's always going to be the different combination of those features. I mean, it might not fit your company to have 3 really flashy banners on there, but it might make a big difference if you have a testimonial video or even a 30-second commercial on there. Or either one of those might make sense, but if you're an international company, you can use those demographics to get your message across to a variety of different demographics. So,
yeah, absolutely. And another good thing, is to make sure that your company just has one page. A lot of times even, so when people who work for your company, when employees, when they type in their current employer, a lot of times they're just typing someone in. But really, when you type someone in, usually a kind of a pop-up list of companies pops up with those matches. And so, if I just type in, I work for One Social Media LLC, West Des Moines, Iowa, it might be different than if I'm typing in One Social Media and actually connecting it to the company page. And so when people go to my profile, now if they click my employer, they'll get to our page, versus if I'm filling in something different, they might not get to that page. And so you want to make sure that all of your employees are typing in the exact same wording when they're saying what company they're employed by and things like that. So just another kind of quick tip to make sure that you're paying attention to. A lot of times it's those details that can kind of get looked over when you're kind of in this process of figuring out what to do on LinkedIn. So I think that is all we have for the show today. Do you have anything to add, Mike?
I think we covered pretty much everything on LinkedIn. Like we said, those new additions for people you might know, groups you might be interested in, those are great ways to connect with people who, might not seem like a big deal now, but later on down the road when you're going through your connections, you already have an intro to that person. You already say, hey, I'm connected to you through LinkedIn. I see this is what you do. I think we could help each other out, things like that. It's definitely valuable to grow your LinkedIn network, and it's definitely valuable to have a good presence on LinkedIn. It'll help you. If it doesn't help you this week, it'll help you further down the road, or it might help you tomorrow. It's just better to have that presence and
absolutely
make sure you're ready for it.
Yep, so just to recap, number one, we'd like you to be more proactive in kind of what you're doing on LinkedIn. So again, take advantage of the groups you might be interested in and actually hit the join button, hit the invite button, instead of just kind of waiting for those things to come to you. And two, really take advantage of company pages. LinkedIn has done a ton of work on them, and they really look awesome and snazzy and really can make your company stand out from the crowd. And again, as with anything, if you have questions about today's show, get a hold of us on Twitter at OneSocialMedia or on Facebook, facebook.com/OneSocialMedia. We'd love to help you out and answer any questions you may have. So we're signing off for the week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Rob will be back.
Probably have a darker tan than I do.
For your viewing enjoyment, yep. So we'll be back next week. See ya.